everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood podcast. I am here today with Rocky Lalvani. I'm not sure if I said your last name correctly. Is that right?
Close enough. Lalvani.
Lalvani. Say it one more time.
Lalvani.
Lalvani. Okay. And today we are going to be talking about mastering profit first strategies, how to keep more cash. Now, I was intrigued by this because I love Mike Michalowicz, and this is based on some of the books or a book that he wrote called Profit First. And so welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Rocky first. I'll give you the official bio. Then I'm going to ask him to tell us something about him that we wouldn't guess from looking at his website or hearing his bio, and why he does what he does. Then we're going to get into our topic of how do you keep more cash. So the short version is that Rocky is the profit answer man. Today, we're going to learn how to actually put profit first and improve your cash flow. He started with nothing when his parents immigrated to the United States when he was 2 years old, and his parents were in their mid-40s. It was his parents' second time starting over in life as they moved here to experience, or there to move to experience the American dream. In spite of a lot of struggles and his mom passing away when Rocky was 7, he's been able to achieve financial and life success. Rocky loves to share his journey and inspire others to achieve their dreams even faster. So welcome. It sounds like you had a tough time coming up.
You know, it's funny, looking back, you think that, but when you really think about it, life was pretty good. I mean, we all have struggles. And the question you ask yourself is, did the struggles make you who you are?
Right.
And they do. And so I think part of it is without the struggles, we don't become stronger.
Yes.
And it's not easy to say that in the moment. It's a lot easier to say that looking backwards.
Exactly. That's true. And it does teach us, it expands our context. It helps us have more compassion for other people who've gone through that, more understanding. There's a lot of benefits to the struggles that we go through. So I see lots of books on your bookshelf, if that is actually your bookshelf back there.
It is, yeah, it's real. You can touch it.
Including Profit First. Mike Michalowicz wrote several books. How did you get interested in his work?
So I was doing some side work in the personal finance space for quite a long time. I was always intrigued because as I looked around, I was like, why aren't there more rich people? I mean, like, and I don't mean that in billionaire wealth, but to become a millionaire isn't that hard. And I'm like, why aren't there more millionaires? And so I was spending time learning about the personal finance side and doing some work there. And across that time, I came to the understanding that business owners weren't looking at their financials. And that was like a massive shift for me. Someone had introduced me to the book Profit First. And I was like, how do you run a business and not look at your numbers? And kind of what Mike talks about in the book and what I've come to learn, and it all makes sense when you look at it from that lens. Business owners go into business to do what they love, their craft, and the majority of them, accounting is not on that list. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be in business and you've got to cover payroll and you've got to make these decisions, if you're just doing it by looking at your bank balance, then you're making decisions based on your bank balance, not on your values, not on forward thinking, not on what's right for you. And you're going to end up struggling. And I think that is why so many business owners struggle. And so it was kind of that perfect match of, hey, you have these skill sets and the world needs this and you enjoy doing it. Let's put that together and build a business around it.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to come back to that, but I did promise that we'd find out some juicy tidbit about you that people wouldn't guess. So obviously you're passionate about finance and business. Tell us something else about you that people wouldn't guess by reading your bio.
You know, I'm not sure what's on my bio, but I'm also a computer geek.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I was very entrepreneurial. I would go out and hustle to make money. And I saved up $2,000. Now, mind you, this is the early 80s. So this was real money. And back then we had inflation too. I went and bought an Apple II computer when they first came out. It had a whopping, I think, 4K of memory.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but one of the first programs that I learned on that was VisiCalc.
Uh,
And so I was learning how to play with these electronic spreadsheets, and I thought that was cool. And when I was in high school, they were having me go show accountants how to go from their paper ledgers to the spreadsheets. And everything I do in my life, I do on spreadsheets, whether it's the grocery list, Thanksgiving dinner, or our financials.
okay.
You build systems and processes. And for me, doing it in Excel has always just been fun.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I know I'm weird.
Okay, so you're a tech geek and an Excel geek. Now, I might have guessed that based on your financial love, but still, and it does kind of, yes, I do remember when computers came with like the less than the amount of RAM that we have on our phones, and by far. So tell us a little bit about why you care so much about this area. Why do you care about businesses and whether or not they're profitable and finance and so forth? How did that come about?
So at the end of the day, small business is the backbone of our country. And you're in Canada, we're in America. It doesn't matter where you are. Small business is what makes the country possible. And every large business starts as a small business.
Mhm.
It really comes down to something selfish. If people can build their own wealth, they'll stop looking for handouts. They'll stop asking for the government to solve their problems. And that's another thing that's probably not on the website. Every time government helps me, it hurts me. And so what better way to help than to help people build wealth so they can make their own choices, do their own thing, and not demand of others? And so to me, it's just a great way to make things better, one person at a time.
I couldn't agree more. That's a big part of why I do what I do. And I think that it's also a great way for people to live into their purpose and to really use it as a vehicle for contribution and change. So we're totally on the same page around that. So tell us a little bit about the profit first principle. So what is that about? What does it mean?
So Mike is a serial entrepreneur. He's written lots of different books on entrepreneurship. One of them that started out actually as part of a different book as a chapter was Profit First. So if you don't know Mike's backstory, Mike is a serial entrepreneur. He built a company back in the 90s. Actually, it was a forensic accounting firm. And by the way, that firm wasn't profitable.
Mhm.
He sold the firm, and that's when he made his profit. So for him, profit was an event when he sold his business. He sold that and another business, walked away with a lot of money from doing that, thought he was the smartest business person in the world, and very quickly lost it all to the point that they were coming for the keys to the house and the car. And after that time, he had to go do some soul searching. And as part of that, he's like, how do we get it so wrong? And he realized, wait a minute, this formula I've been given of sales minus expenses equals profit, it makes profit where? It's a leftover, it's last. And he said, we need to change this to sales minus profit equals expenses. And so I think as business owners, we have this habit of throwing money at every problem instead of trying to be more resourceful and to do things within constraints. What Profit First really is it's a constraint system. It's based off of Parkinson's law. Are you at all? Most people aren't familiar with Parkinson's law. Some are, but Parkinson's law basically says your business will use up all the time and money allocated. So if you've got a project, the two questions are, what's your budget and what's your time frame? You say 6 months and 100 grand, it's going to be 7 months and probably 110. But if you say 3 weeks and 20 grand, Somebody or you will figure out how to get it done in 3 weeks for 20 grand. And it's that constraint that makes us more resourceful. And clearly, that's a big difference to your bottom line, is to be able to do that.
Yep.
And I think the second part of that is the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do produces 80% of the results. If you take the time to think and be more resourceful, and you focus on the 20 that gets you the 80, and you take the next step, that means 40% gets you 96% of the result. You're spending a lot of money and time that's wasted. And trying to figure that out and think differently is really what this is all about.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that you're right. A lot of entrepreneurs avoid or don't like doing their finances. It's not where they came from, it's not their background for most or many. They come up through the technician side of it, like they love to do the thing, coaching, or
Mhm.
they're a massage therapist, or they're a cabinet builder. They're not a business owner. And a business owner is the kind of person who actually has to think about profit. So when these people who are not financially friendly, we'll call it, how do they, because it's a real shift to think, well, I'll take the profit out, whatever that might be, and then pay the expenses. Well, what if there's not enough money to pay all the expenses? Then what do I do? How do you have help them figure out how to deal with that in a new way?
Well, so what Profit First does is it constrains how much you have to spend. And what happens is, I always use the example of the bag of potato chips or the bag of candy. You sit down in front of the TV with a bag of chips, there's a good chance it's going to disappear,
Mhm.
right? But if you sat down in front of the TV with a smaller bag of chips, you would constrain yourself and you would limit yourself. As a business owner, what most business owners do is they look at their bank account. If they see lots of money, what do? They spend. I got money. I got to spend it to grow my business. When they don't see money, they're like, uh-oh, I don't have money. I need to collect or sell, right? I need to be more resourceful. And so that's basically what Profit First does, is it forces you to think and work on your business instead of in your business. And that's basically what it is. So you don't have to learn how to read the financial accounting. That's one of Mike's selling points in the book. It's, if you just move your money like this and you constrain yourself, you'll naturally figure it out by having to have to figure it out. What happens more often than not is business owners just start spending that money and then they go, oh, wait, I had payroll. Oh, wait, I had taxes. Oh, wait, I paid myself last. I forgot to pay myself. I just spent my salary on something in the business. And that's usually what happens.
Exactly. So how do people calculate how much profit to set aside?
So in the book, Mike has a chart based on business size.
Mhm.
However, those are the targets. Okay. So when we go to the gym, the first time we go to the gym, we don't load all the weights onto the bar, do we? No, we might want to lift that much one day, but today we start with an empty bar. So what we suggest to clients is start with where you're at. If you're 5% profitable now and you're kind of getting enough money to pay your taxes and you're paying yourself something but not enough, figure out those percentages and start using those percentages to start allocating. And then start thinking about your business a little different. And then every quarter, increase those percentages. It might only be 1% in each.
Mhm.
But if you can pick up 3% in a quarter, in a year, you can pick up 12%.
Mhm.
Most businesses waste money like they wouldn't imagine. Like, you sit down and you're like, wait, I'm still paying for that?
Mhm.
Oh, I signed up for that trial subscription. Wait, they raised their prices and they never notified me. You start to do a little bit more investigation. You start to look at where your money is going and you start to change your habits. That's really what this is about, is changing the way and your relationship with your money in your business.
Absolutely. I just recently had a business card, credit card, um, hacked, and so was literally just switching over all of my accounts to business accounts that are automatically paid, software subscriptions, and my payment thing for my subcontractors, etc., to the new card. And it was fascinating to me because I had to now put down what are all the automatic payments that come out. And there was quite a few that I am now going in to cancel because, as you said, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that subscription was still going and I'm not using it. Oh yeah, I forgot that that was, I used it once and meant to cancel it and forgot. Things like that. It really makes you aware of where the expenses are going. So that's a great exercise to do, is to just actually list, if you don't already have it in your accounting or in a spreadsheet, all of your expenses, automatic and otherwise, for the business, and where can you cut back, and what is that burn rate or monthly expense amount that you consistently need, and are you selling enough to create profit over and above that, because many people are not and don't even necessarily know what their burn rate is. So and include paying yourself out of that as well. So where do you start with people who don't have a sense of any of this, don't have financials, don't have a bookkeeper perhaps, or they've got very loose bookkeeping? What's the most important place for them to start?
So one of the easiest ways actually to begin, if you don't know anything else, is to go to your last year's tax return, because your tax return will tell you how much revenue came in, how
Mhm.
much expenses went out. It'll show you how much your taxes that you had to pay were, and you'll know how much you paid yourself. And so you can start with those percentages.
Okay.
That's a fine place to start. Don't make this difficult. And understand, here's the other problem. In the first 3 months, it's all going to go wrong. You're going to be borrowing from your accounts. You're going to be moving money around. You're going to lose hope. It's okay. It just the natural rhythm of getting your money to flow. But
Mhm.
if you stick with it over time, it'll start to work. And that's the biggest thing. You have to start,
Mhm.
and B, you just have to keep sticking with it. And it comes back to going to the gym. The first time it's tough. It might even be scary. The second time it gets a little bit easier and you start to get more and more comfortable. And 3 to 6, 9 to 12 months into it, you're a pro. But you got to just keep doing it, and you got to take the setbacks in keep going at it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell people how he advocates setting the money aside. Like, what's the process for setting aside the profit first?
So profit first is based on an old system. People used to use envelopes. They would get their money and they would take their cash and they put it in the rent envelope, in the grocery envelope, in the utility envelope. And when they ran out of money, they stopped spending.
Mhm.
Right. That's just the way it worked. Amazing concept. Stop spending. Mike took that concept and applied it to businesses. And so what we do instead is use bank accounts. All of your money comes into one bank account. We call that the income account. And so whenever you look at it, you'll always know how much money came in. It's clear as day how much money came in.
Mhm.
And then what we do on a set rhythm, so you can do this weekly, you can do it bi-monthly, you can do it monthly. We don't recommend doing it more often than weekly. We don't want this to be cumbersome.
Mhm.
You take the money out of your income account and you distribute it. So the first account we distribute to, of course, is
Your expenses? No, sorry, not
no
your profit. Oh,
profit. That's
yes,
right. So the
exactly.
first thing we do is
Yep.
we put money in our profit account.
Yep.
Then we put money in our pay account because we shouldn't pay ourselves last for doing all the work and taking the risk. Then we put money into the tax account.
Mhm.
And then we put money into our operating expense account. So that's how the money gets split. And now you spend out of your operating account. Every time you go to do your allocation, you'll see how much money came in. You'll start to feel how the money comes into your business. You'll be giving it a job to do, and you're going to go send it to do that job, and you're going to constrain your operating expenses.
Mhm.
Now, some business owners, Mike included, cannot be trusted by themselves. And so they need to hide their money. So some people actually hide their profit in their tax account in another bank so they can't see it, or they turn it off so that they don't see it in their account list.
Mhm.
Because if they see money, they spend it. And that's true of a lot of business owners.
Right.
Um, and that's all there is to this system. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple things. Your accountant and bookkeeper might freak out. It is really not that hard to do 5 extra transactions or 10 extra transactions a month.
Mhm.
It's no big deal. We're not trying to screw people. We will pay our bills. What we're doing is we're constraining the way we look at our money. We're
Mhm.
not trying to cheat anyone or do anything like that. And we're preparing for the things that we need to do. If your business plan says you have a 10% profit margin, then have a 10% profit margin. That's really all this is. It may force you to look at your business and say, I have to raise prices.
Mhm.
Maybe you do. And I know that's scary for a lot of business owners. Maybe you've got leaks like you've talked about where money is going out that's providing no value. And I think it forces you to think about your business, think about your money, and make good choices.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, having those extra accounts is a little bit more bookkeeping. Yes, you may pay a little bit more in service fees for those accounts, although ask your bank if they've got no fee savings accounts. Often savings accounts have no fees. And make sure you can transfer money from your account to the other account, but it's probably better if you do it via an e-transfer to a separate account in a separate bank. So like Rocky said, you won't be tempted to just transfer it back because it's way too easy to do that and therefore it won't work. So having had multiple accounts set up for that purpose, I know that when I've got, I'm short and I need to pay something or I need to pay a subcontractor, I'll take it out of my savings rather than not pay them because it's easy and it's there rather than figuring out a way to go and sell or to do something to make sure that I'm not, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It really does require us to be more proactive about our money, which I think is a brilliant idea. It certainly does help us be more profitable. So tell people a little bit about what you do and how you can help them and who you work with.
So we tend to work with larger small businesses, generally in the 7 and 8 figure range, but we do have programs for smaller businesses as well. And what we do, profit first to us is a starting point, right? It's how you move your money. But the real question then is, where is the profit in my business? Where is, what's my plan for next year? How does all that stuff come together? And so we help them to plan out what you're going to do for the upcoming time periods. How are you doing compared to what you said you were going to do? And then we really help them to find the leaks, the inefficiencies to make their business. We believe work less, make more, right? There is no grinding it out here. We go the opposite direction, right? We want you to be able to enjoy your business. And that's one of the things, when business becomes enjoyable, you're more apt to show up every morning and be happy you're there.
Yes, and more apt to want to pick up the phone and talk to clients or prospects to turn them into clients because you love what you do and you're more likely to then be effective in your sales, which helps you with creating more profit. So tell people how they can find you. What's your website and spell out the URL. It'll be in the show notes too, but spell it out for everybody.
The website is Profit Comes First. So profit, just like you know it, comes COMES first, FIRST.com. From there, you can find the podcast, which is Profit Answer Man. On there, we share stories and success of how other people have been able to turn their businesses around, become more profitable, and different things to look at within your business to help you to be more profitable.
Exactly. And you have a gift for people. Tell them about that and the URL for that too.
They can find that right at the same website down there. There is a free profit first toolkit. So like if you want to see the percentages that Mike talks about, get a couple free chapters of the book to see if it's interesting, along with some other tools, we send those all out to you from there as well.
All right. And do they get that by going to the website and then putting slash profit toolkit after that?
No, I think if you just scroll down to the bottom there, it'll say get the profit tool click, and you just click on that. I probably have to figure out what the URL is for
Well,
it.
the URL that you've got here is bit.ly slash
Ah,
toolkit. So bit.ly slash profit toolkit. So bit.ly slash profit toolkit will take you there, or you can probably find it on his website as well. Thank you so much, Rocky. I appreciate your passion for the topic, but also the desire to simplify it, because I do think it can be intimidating for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those who are relatively new or who don't have training in the kind of financial side of things. And sometimes, we may have bookkeepers, but they don't necessarily help with that, how to think about money, how to think about it. Sometimes your accountant may or may not provide that service. Or you may have a financial advisor, but typically they just focus on investments. So really there's this empty space that you're filling of financial strategies that help you with the business. That's not about investing, and it's not about keeping track of the dollars. It's more about where you're putting the dollars to make you successful. So what's one last piece of advice or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave everyone with?
you have to start. I mean, that's really what the problem is. Mike talks about this all the time. He comes off of stage. People are like, I love the idea. I love the book. He's like, did you open the accounts and do it? And invariably the answer is no.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work unless you do it. All of this stuff, like you can probably find the book at the library. You don't have to spend money. No one's trying to sell you anything. Just go learn, listen to the podcast. We teach it all for free. Just go implement it. That's really the key.
Thank you. As it is for everything that is part of actually being successful, it's not about the knowledge, it's about the implementation of what you know. Thank you so much for being here today, Rocky. And again, you can find him at profitcomesfirst.com and go to the podcast, the Profit Answer Man podcast, because like you can tell, he loves to make things simple, accessible, and practical. And so even if you don't like finances, it's probably a good one to listen to. Maybe especially if you don't like finances. Thanks for being here today, everybody, and may you have a profitable year. Bye for now.